shooting from?
Hey, how you doing, guys? This is System32 here, coming at you with a new video. In this video, we're going to be reviewing and discussing the newly added campaign mode to Rising Storm 2. For those of you who may not be familiar with the series already, Rising Storm 2 is a sequel to the critically acclaimed hardcore World War II FPS Rising Storm and Red Orchestra 2. The game is set in the Vietnam era and is reliant on realism and historical accuracy for the audience it pertains to. I personally think the game does a very good job at making a very enjoyable, intense, and fun experience. The game is definitely worth the money if you're looking for something that will challenge you and keep you on the edge of your seat at all times during a match. Now that you know a brief summary of the game, let's get into the review of the campaign mode and update 1.1 that is now in the main build of the game and available to all players now. The campaign mode has been around since the first main two games in the series, being Rising Storm 1 and Red Orchestra 2. In Update 1.1, this religiously played mode is back with a few minor changes. The campaign mode is a deep tactical mode which takes place over several battlefields on a tactical map layout where players must choose where to attack and also where to defend each turn. Each team has a number of factions that they can choose before they battle it out on the territories. Also featured as a timeline for the war. For example, Southern forces early on in the campaign will have access to the United States Army having basic weaponry and equipment, as well as having access to the ARNV troops. The Northern troops will also have access to the People's Army of Vietnam and the NLF. And as the campaign progresses, more factions will be rotated out to align with the historical accuracy of the time period. For example, later on in the war, Australian forces will become available around the time that they entered the war, being August 1962. As the factions available with the time change, so will the weaponry available to each faction. During the early years of the war, the United States factions will not have access to certain artillery and vehicle advancements that the Vietnam War was known for. For example, the US will not have access to the Cobra and most other air vehicles, as well as gunships and napalm airstrikes, until they become available during the air time period. Some factions have access to special attack methods that must be used wisely, such as the US Marines. The attack method available to them is called Search and Destroy. This type of attack will take away more combat power from a defeated team, while also leaving the territory neutral after victory. So as you can see, there's a bit of a trade-off involved with using this attack method, but if used correctly, such as against a faction that is dangerously low on combat power, can mean securing campaign victory for your team. Victory points are the endgame determining factor at the end of the war, to decide what faction has secured campaign victory, though as I mentioned before, the game might end early due to unwise decisions from the other side, making statistics such as combat power the deciding factor of campaign victory or defeat. The long-awaited addition of a multiplayer campaign has definitely enhanced the gameplay experience from tactical decision-making as well as overall chaos on the battlefield. Winning the game is no longer a meaningless feeling with a sense of urgency to not lose, being that losing could spell defeat in the war. Players will feel more in tune with the immersion and the feeling of victory, being that the opposing team is also fighting for a real reason now, making a difficulty occur for both sides as they race toward campaign victory and a nice XP payout. My ending thoughts on this review is that Update 1.1 was a much needed breath of life to the game, making the experience better than it ever has been before, and even in some ways surpassing the later games in the series in terms of fun factor mechanics. Now is definitely a good time to get into the game if you have not yet already. With an abundance of player created and official content to keep you busy for hundreds of hours, This is definitely a game you should pick up. Typically, the game runs for about $25 on Steam, and definitely can be picked up for about, I believe, $15 on sale a lot of the times. The game goes on sale all the time. If you're really looking for like a new challenge and you're really into realism and hardcore shooters, this is definitely a game you want to pick up, especially for this new campaign mode that's been updated and added. It makes the experience so much better and that much more of a good game in my opinion. So, I mean, if you guys appreciate this video and you guys like this review, let me know. Go ahead, comment down below if you want to see me review other games, or if you like, do some gameplay, whatever it may be, just let me know. If you could give me a subscribe and support my content, I'd really appreciate that. This is System 32 out, and I'll see you on the battlefields of war-torn Vietnam.